Today is April 4th, 2015. Joining us on the porch is local musician Donna Dennihy and local business owner Deanna Hubbard.
The best place for family. What are you waiting for? Where friendships run deeper. Come join us on the porch. So glad you're on the porch.
Yes, sir and ma'am. You are here for another exciting adventure on the Porch Radio Hour. Usually, at this point, I start to explain about how our guests got here, and it's usually like this big, crazy endeavor. And we'll get to that, but I have to tell you that I wasn't sure I was going to be here. As I brought up, I don't know, a show or two ago now, that I've been working the outage at 9 Mile Point. And it's a lot of hours, and not like a lot of hours working, and not a lot of hours not working. And I was doing a good job recently, and they gave me a lunch voucher that allowed me a free lunch at the cafeteria. And I thought that if I just walked up and said, "This is what I want," and I handed them my voucher, they'd say, "Great, thanks for doing a good job." They'd give me my free lunch, and I would go on my way. And so that's what I did till it got to the point where I started to go on my way, and the woman at the cash register said, "Wait, this is worth $8, and you've only spent $5.50. I paused because that meant I could get more free food. I looked at all of my options, and there was a really good-looking cookie thing in the rack. And I said, "How much is that?" And she said, "Don't worry about it. It'll cover it, and you'll be all set." So I said, "I will take that, and I will go on my way." So I took the cookie thing, and I didn't pay much attention to anything else that was attached to the cookie thing, and I went about my business. So for those of you that don't know, and that most people don't, I have this thing with caffeine, and so I've stopped eating and consuming any source of caffeine because my mind... Well, it's like a hallucinogenic kind of thing that happens with caffeine. It's just like I spin and I do cartwheels, and it's not good for other people. So I go, and I eat my really, it was a good lunch, and I saved the cookie thing, opened the cookie thing, and when I took a bite, I realized that I never looked at any other part except for the top. And so the top of this cookie thing was actually just a cookie top to a brownie, and a really thick, dark, rich, chocolatey brownie. And I've done my research because I need to know what has caffeine in it. Brownies have chocolate, and chocolate has caffeine. And I thought, it's okay. I had chocolate chip ice cream recently, and so those little pieces of chocolate were fine. This really big, dark, heavy brownie should be okay, because a big, rich, deep, heavy chocolate brownie is equivalent to the little chocolate fake chip things that they put in your ice cream. And the chocolate chip cookie stuff on top had chocolate in it too, and I can still feel it. And so I ate the brownie thing with a really good cup of herbal coffee that has 0 caffeine in it because I'm doing a good job. So I ate the brownie thing, and I get out at 6:30 in the evening. I ate my lunch at like 12, and then I laid down in bed at 8 o'clock because I was being a good employee, and I had to get up early the next morning, and I couldn't sleep. So I went downstairs and read, and couldn't sleep, and so I left the house and went for a jog, and I couldn't sleep, and I ended up in this really weird, like this real shady dive on the outskirts of a town that's somewhere within running distance. And I said, okay. And I pulled up to the bar, and I said, I need something that will counteract caffeine. And the bartender looked very befuddled. But then they mixed me this thing, and I said, "Do you accept vouchers?" Because the caffeine was working at this point. It was working really well. And I said, if you accept vouchers, I have one. And I reached into my pocket thinking that I would still have the voucher that I handed to the woman that she put in the cash register. I didn't have the voucher. But I very quietly and covertly wrote out my own voucher on a napkin and handed it to the bartender and said, "That's my drink voucher." And then I think my eyes they like do this caffeine thing where it's like they cross and they look in opposite directions, and I think the bartender was just like, "Yeah, I'll accept your voucher. This is only good for one drink ever. Even if you pay for your next one, you only get one." And I said, "That's fine. That's all I need. It's going to help me sleep." And I was sitting there, and I must have been talking to somebody that wasn't there. But then I turned, and there was somebody there, and she was getting ready to perform her next set. So Donna Dennihy's hanging out at this dive, and which, come to find out, she frequents dives recently. I had no idea. Dives that people that consume caffeine go to, and she loves singing to people high on caffeine. And so she was like, "This is perfect. You're going to hang around for the next set." And I said, "I have no choice. I can't go home because they don't accept people like me at my house." So I consumed my beverage and I listened to the show. And I think I was being such a good audience member that they allowed me to hand in another napkin for another drink. And I didn't even have to write on this one. It was very nice of them. And then I figured Donna was doing such a great job and people were loving her music so much that I took that stack of cardboard paper coasters and I started handing them out to people in the bar like they were drink vouchers. And at that point, they asked me to leave. But before I left, I actually had a business card. It was a real, not like on a napkin or anything. I keep them in my shoe, and I ran. So I had an itch, and I pulled out my foot, and I scratched the bottom of my foot, and the card peeled off, and I handed it to Donna, and I said, "We should talk because you would be really great on the show." And she said, "Is it okay if I bring my own fans?" I said, "Absolutely. Bring all the fans you need. We need to fill the house." I didn't realize that it was going to be a little fan to keep her cool that she kept in her purse. But it's here and it's keeping my ankles cool, and I'm very happy about that. So I'm glad that came. And as I was leaving, there was a very nice woman who was getting ready to get in her car, and she said it was lovely music. And I said, "It was lovely music, and this is a lovely car, and I bet it drives." And she said, "Yes, it does. Do you need a ride?" "You have no idea. I can't jog in this condition." So at that point, I met Deanna, and she drove me home. And on the way home, we talked about all sorts of things. And at that point, still working off the caffeine and still trying to figure out what it was that the bartender gave me, I wasn't sure that it was true that I was going to have Deanna on the show talking about clocks that don't look like clocks, that you just clip to your shirt. And that seemed weird at the time. But then she showed me, and I thought I was remembering this correctly. And then we were talking about animals, and we were talking about all sorts of things, music and the elderly. And I got up the next morning, and I tried to relay this message to the other people in the house. They didn't understand. But you will soon understand. And all of that to say, I'm really glad that they're on the show, and that they accepted their invitations on napkins and coasters, and so anyway, we'll be able to interview them later, and it'll be a lot of fun. So I want to welcome Donna and Deanna to the show. And Donna, you're on the porch.
And then he woke up. Early girl. Okay. And this is Paul Walker with me. He's going to help me on bass and with his beautiful voice. Okay. So the quick little story is, really, I don't know where this song came from. But my husband is kind of a little mini farmer. And he asked me to get him some tomatoes. And he told me the name of the tomatoes, but when I went over to ask for the tomatoes, I asked for Easy Girl tomatoes, and they're really early girl tomatoes, so. There you go. hard-fired connections pointing at you. It's the early girl, she's there before 8. You let people pass, you can't wait. Her smile makes you stand up straight. You don't mind if she makes you late. Go ahead, find someone who makes you laugh, who thinks like you do. It's still early, you've got time. Early girl is waiting in line. You're home now, but all you see are her hands, the way she holds her tea. You smile at nothing so no one will see, but smiling's the way it's supposed to be. Go ahead, find someone who makes you laugh, who thinks like you do. It's still early, you've got time. Early girl is waiting in line. In another room, she goes to bed. You stay up late, it's the nights you dread. You think about the early girl instead, thoughts of her hands inside your head. Go ahead, find someone who makes you laugh, who thinks like you do. It's still early, you've got time. Early girl is waiting in line. Thank you.
This episode of On the Porch Radio Hour is brought to you by Broken Glass. From the makers of wood chips and shredded tires comes the newest addition to their smaller, broken pieces of larger, no longer usable things line. Yes, folks, it's Broken Glass, bringing back the curiosity and mischief from days gone by. With movements and laws created to keep citizens from throwing bottles wherever they please, it's getting harder and harder to find those see-through shards of beauty. It is not only considered a treasure, but seen as an artifact if someone finds a smoothed-over piece of glass on the beach. And long gone are the days of gazing in wide wonder at the joy of finding bottle and jar pieces while walking in the woods. These are just two examples of how broken glass has kept boys and girls busy for hours. Now you and your loved ones can share in traditions of yesterday once again. This Easter, forget about hiding cheap plastic eggs with teeth and stomach-rotting treats inside. Try hiding broken glass around your home and yard and watch your family come to life. Then, over the next few weeks, watch how the joy unfolds into jewelry, window hangings, sun catchers, mosaics, and more. So get up and go get your family some broken glass, wherever fine things are sold. Remember to ask for broken glass by name. It was early on in On the Porch's career when we decided we needed to get a translator because we were getting a lot of letters from our fans saying that we weren't real, that we were just kind of floating and making things up, and they needed more of a real life translation of what was happening on the porch. So we got this computer program, and the last time we tried it, as you might remember, it didn't go so well. But we have several friends that work on computers, and they say they've worked out the glitches. So we've decided to bring the translator back on the porch.
So it's spring in central New York, and it's been a really hard winter. And this time of year, it's hard to know what to expect in the forecast. Because of our extreme weather, we have regular forecast readers in our house. But sometimes it's difficult to understand exactly what they're saying, so we're going to try to translate the forecast with our translator. So I'm going to turn it on here. Hello? Is this on?
Hello? No questions, please. Let's stick to translations.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, here's the first bit. A pretty active storm is forecast to come east out of the northern Rockies Thursday. The warm front from that storm lifts to our north early Thursday, providing central New York with some extra cloud cover and a spotty rain or snow shower around dawn.
It's cloudy.
All right. Starting later Thursday morning, the sun comes back, and southerly winds out ahead of that storm will bring some very mild air our way for Thursday.
It's sunny.
We could be above 60 degrees on Thursday. That hasn't happened since November 24th last year.
You suckers. Do you realize you have been living under feet of snow and in sub-zero temperatures for nearly 5 months?
Yeah, I have. However, we'll only be in warmer weather for a couple of days.
Psych.
A cold front will drop southward through central New York Thursday night with some widespread rain and perhaps some thunder. That front won't move too far south of our area Friday, but it seems likely it will be just far enough to spare us any steady precipitation during the daylight. Winds will be light Friday with high temperatures in the upper 50s. However, this is just a brief taste of spring.
Winter is not over, folks. We were just kidding.
A storm will develop along the tail end of the front later Friday and track just south of us Friday night. This is where the forecast gets tricky. When the steady precipitation moves in early Friday night, we will be more than warm enough for plain rain. After midnight, though, colder air begins moving in from the north, and that will cause a change over to wet snow. This change will take place over higher elevations at first. There are still some question marks, but confidence is increasing that at least a light accumulation of snow over central New York by Saturday morning. You'll want to continue to pay close attention to this part of the forecast over the next few days.
We actually use a magic 8-ball to predict the weather. Will it snow? Ask again later. Will the sun rise? Better not tell you now. Will it be warm? Cannot predict now. Will it be cold? Concentrate and ask again. Do you know anything about weather? Reply hazy. Try again.
11 years ago, Deanna Hubbard was experiencing some things in her life and was given a sign that she needed to be doing something different. And so when she scattered a whole bunch of stuff on her floor and a couple of things came together, she realized that she had something in her hands that was what she needed to be doing, and it was really inspirational. And I think the whole story is really inspirational, and I'm really glad that you're on the show. So welcome to On the Porch, Deanna.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Take us back 11 years ago, and you had a whole bunch of your mom's jewelry, is that correct?
Yes. My mom had recently passed away, and I had support and help from many friends and relatives. And going through her jewelry, I made little piles around me. And as I made each pile, I kept thinking, oh, Mom, what am I going to do now? I left my work to take care of you and to support you, and what am I going to do? And I kept coming across broken pieces, and I couldn't even throw away the broken pieces yet. My heart wasn't there. So I thought, I'll just make a new pile. So I had this little tiny necklace watch like the nurses used to wear hundreds of years ago. Not hundreds, but you know. And then a little brooch. And I tossed it behind me. I was sitting on the floor, So I tossed it behind me, and I felt this little tap on my head. Now I'm alone in the house, and I spin around, and that little watch fell in the back of that brooch. Now I had been singing or doing something at the Ren Fair in Sterling for many, many years, and to see that that watch could not be seen, I was like, oh my gosh, you can't see that watch. I even put my head to the floor to make sure it was level. It's like, oh my gosh. So I stopped what I was doing. I collected my instruments of construction, repaired the watch, put it all together. And then that first day of the Renaissance Fair, when I was singing with my group, I pinned it to my belt. And throughout the day, I kept checking the clock, checking the time, making sure we were on stage on time, off on time. And all the actors and the other performers kept saying, what are you looking at? And so I would show them, where did you get that? And I said, well, I made it. By the end of the day, I had 15 orders with no idea how to recreate what I made. And that is how I started the clip clocks. But I know it was my mom that guided me, so I would have something to do.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating story. And what a great place to really try that out, because at the Renaissance festivals, they can't wear watches or clocks because they're wearing clothing of the time period, right?
Right, and the wristwatches were not invented yet. Neither were cell phones. So.
Shoot.
So with my invention, I design all kinds of different things, from broken pieces of jewelry, things from nature, leather, porcelain, and I create something unique and individual. Some things I can repeat, but most likely about 85% of my product is one of a kind.
Man, that's really incredible. And so up to this point, over the last 11 years then, you've been doing this fairly consistently.
Yes.
Do you have any idea of how many pieces you've made, or any kind of estimation of?
No, but I do have at least 700 or more customers.
Wow.
And I guarantee my work, so they only really need to buy one, because if they break, I fix them for free. However, as each person gets a new piece of garb, or they change venue and they go Scottish instead of Victorian, they happen to want a different clip clock. So
Sure.
I'm very fortunate that they come back to me again.
Man, that's really fascinating. Cool. So how many pieces do you own for yourself?
I probably have about 15 in my drawer.
Yeah,
As different ones speak to me, they either decide they stay with me or they're meant for someone else. Because I do put a lot of love and energy into my pieces so that the right person will pick it and take care of it.
Yeah.
And hopefully my energy will give them lots of love and light and healing.
Absolutely. And that's a really nice segue, too, into some of the other stuff that I wanted to talk to you about. And it's connected because, of course, I had done a little bit of research, and I asked you some questions online or through email and that kind of stuff. So you gave me some of your background and some of your history. But when you showed up this evening, of course, I'm really fascinated by the clip clock thing, and you and I can talk off the show sometime about my history with watches because it's awful. But the first thing, other than introducing myself and welcoming you to the house and letting you in, of course, I was looking for your clip clock because I knew you were going to have one. But it didn't take very long. Even though you're wearing other pieces of jewelry, there was a real draw to it. And so that piece, at the end that you're talking about putting energy and healing into it, it's not just a sales pitch, I was, of course, there it is right there. I was drawn to that, even though I already saw all of the other stuff you were wearing. So where else then are you putting that same energy and love and all of the healing energy that you're putting into your stuff?
Well, I do play guitar and sing. I've sung my whole life, but I just started teaching myself guitar 7-8 years ago. It's always learning. My goal with the guitar was to play it well enough to go and sing for different elder homes or wherever I'm needed to bring joy, love, and light. So I learned a few songs, and my mother-in-law found out. And she says, "Oh, you must come to our church and Senate and sing for our fidelity group." I said, "All right, I will do that. I only know like 5 songs." "Oh, oh, honey, it's okay." I said, "Well, I'm not oh, you're just fine." So I went. Well, to ease my nervousness, I was ready to play after our little luncheon, and I held up a little container of earplugs. And I said, "Does anybody want these before I start?" And they go, "Oh, you're so cute. Oh, honey, you're so cute." Oh, and they pat my hand, and it was just, they were so supportive. So I strummed the guitar, this beautiful C chord, and then I sang horribly, "Old MacDonald had a farm," and I watched all of their faces just drop. Though my mother-in-law and sister-in-law knew. Right. So then I stopped and I held up the earplugs and I said, "Now they're going for $1 a pair." But then I played a real song, and it was just a lovely time. And they just relaxed. I relaxed. And when I was done, they just said that they felt such a relaxation and upbeat, and everything that they were feeling earlier was gone. And I also sing at nursing homes and other places. I do have that other little story. Yeah. At the nursing home. There was a gentleman in a wheelchair, and he came in and he's listening, and it looked like he had fallen asleep. And that's always fine, because they hear and they feel right when they're asleep. Well, I decided to sing Country Roads. And when I got to the point where you sing "Miss the Taste of Moonshine," his hand went up and he's waving. So he was not asleep, but he really missed the taste of moonshine. So it's just a wonderful experience, and I do receive emails after I play at different places saying that, our residents are just so happy, and they feel better, and they act better, and they have more positiveness about them after you're there. Yeah. So I'm just very blessed to be able to do that.
How I'm interpreting what you're doing and the work that you're doing is coming in several different avenues, but it's all kind of funneling into that same space of you finding ways to provide something for somebody that's going to feel good. It's going to be healing. It's going to have that energy to it. It's going to have, whether it's a spiritual connection or a healing connection or just, some kind of connection of love and peace. And you're finding a lot of different ways to do that. And if you don't mind, I'm going to use the term how you explained it to me, which is you're delivering all of this stuff in Deanna style. And you also, like, not only do you explain it as delivering it in Deanna style, but you have like a business plan almost. Like, if you want to receive some of this Deanna style, you get it it's like a 3-point plan. So it's coming to you in like 3 different avenues. So we've heard about 2 of those. Do you mind taking a moment to explain the third avenue?
Well, the third avenue is, it's not new to me, but it's new to many other people about me. Right. My whole life, I've always known what to say or come up with solutions or phrases that have helped in a dire situation, or it's just helped people, friends. It's empathic.
Sure.
And I've never really promoted that, but about 2.5, 3 years ago, I was doing a psychic fair with my clip clocks. Okay. And with everybody there, the energy was so high, and it was just a wonderful feeling. All of a sudden, I just got this feeling that you should be doing this, because as I was speaking of my clocks and saying, "Oh, you need something for your mother-in-law, and well, this piece came from a friend of mine whose mom did this and that, and I think it would be a good match. And someone else came up and said, you should just sit and talk with people, or use cards, or do something. I had done tarot cards all these years, but I just wasn't ready to come out like that.
Sure.
And the cards that I had, I wasn't connecting with, so I think that's what held me back. But after that weekend, I thought there's something out there for me. There's some cards out there for me. And I did come across some cards that just spoke to me. And now I use those. I also just look at you and say, I'm feeling this. And so if people don't need an energy-filled clip clock, or they don't need me to come and play and sing, or go to my YouTube page and listen, they can require a reading, and I will do that. I can do that over the computer. I just connect my higher self with your higher self, and so we really don't even have to meet anywhere. But I will meet anywhere. I will go to have some coffee and donuts or something, if you'd like. So that's my third part.
I love it. I think it's great. And I think, it's a really good fit for you, obviously, but I think it's a really good fit for the people that you're connecting with, too, because your energy is obviously, it's contagious in a lot of ways, and I think that there's a lot of people that would benefit from just, like, having coffee and donuts. But sometimes it's really hard for people to just say, I just want to hang out with you and have coffee and donuts.
That's
so
right. Yeah.
You can say, great, then buy my stuff, and you can then have coffee and donuts with me, Like, you have it figured out. And I think it's really great. And I'm really glad that... Okay, so one last question.
Yes.
Did you grow up in the area?
Yes, I've been in North Hannibal my whole life.
All right. So another CNY native staying in CNY because there's so many cool things happening, and you're definitely one of them. So thanks for being on the porch, Deanna, and I hope to see you more at the farm. So Deanna Hubbard, everybody, thank you for being here. Hold on. How can they access you? This is a PS. You've heard the letter, but now you have to read the postscript. This is how we know how to get a hold of how to contact Deanna Hubbard.
All right, clipclocks.com. And actually, you can just go there, and my email is there. Connect with me from there.
Okay.
Facebook, I've got Clip Clocks, and I have Heartfelt Spiritual Guidance.
Okay.
And my own personal page, Deanna Palenko Hubbard. So email me, find me. I'm out there.
Awesome.
Thank you.
We certainly will. Thanks for being on the show. You're listening to On the Porch Radio Hour. We'll be back in a few minutes.
What's happening in Central New York is brought to us by iHeart Oswego. The third annual Healthy Baby Expo welcomes families to attend the 2015 Great Cloth Diaper Change on Saturday, April 18, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Elam Grace Church, located on West 1st Street in Oswego, New York. This is a family-oriented free event that will feature fun activities, educational information, and a vendor fair for future and new parents, grandparents, and infant caregivers. Participants will find much-needed information about infant safety, healthy nutrition, baby massage, baby basics, breastfeeding, car seat safety, and more. Visit healthybabyexpo.com for more information. The CNY Art Center hosts a Writers Cafe the last Sunday of the month, with the next session on April 26th. The Art Center is also currently offering adult painting classes, cake decorating classes, and writing classes. And Narnia the Musical, with a cast of all ages, is opening at the CNY Art Center on April 17th. Visit cnyartcenter.com for more information. SUNY Oswego's chamber music series Connect features Dave Douglas on Wednesday, April 8 at 7:30 p.m. in Sheldon Hall. Call 315 312-2141 for more information. Colette Theater in Pulaski hosts illusionist Leon Etienne from America's Got Talent, Saturday, April 18 at 3 p.m. Visit ColetteTheater.com for more information. The Oswego Music Hall hosts an open mic night with John McConnell, Friday, April 10th at 7 p.m. and Aztec Two-Step, Saturday, April 11th at 7:30 p.m. Visit OswegoMusicHall.org for more information. The Red Room sessions at Wooden Apple Farmstead are a time for songwriters, musicians, and anyone else who wants to build their musical skill and knowledge to get together. We share songs we are working on, bounce musical ideas off each other, and we usually have time to just play a little music. This is a supportive environment where all levels of songwriting and musical experience are welcome. It is the final Sunday of each month. The next session is April 26th at 6 p.m.
I am excited because Donna Dennihy is not only on the show and is making her second appearance at Wooden Apple Farmstead, but was raised in Fulton, New York, my hometown. It's really cool to have somebody on the show that's doing that. So welcome to the show, Donna.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's fun to be here.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's really fun to have you here. And for a second time, we discovered Donna through the music scene and kind of threw her an invitation last fall that she accepted and came out to our Wooden Apple Farmstead Music and Art Festival, and I thought was a really great hit, and was on crutches even, and still
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And we played on a roof, didn't we?
Yeah, on the garage roof. I mean, where else?
It was quite a feat.
It was quite a feat. It was awesome to be on crutches, to be on our garage roof, performing at the music festival. And so for the last 15 years, you have been writing and performing music all across central New York and more? Is that right?
Well, not all across central New York, pretty much in a small little area, and, just wherever they'll have me, I guess.
Yeah.
And my band.
And your band, Paul Walker.
Well, yeah, I play with Paul. I do have a band called Edgy Folk.
Right.
And we play wherever we can. And
okay, so you perform would you call it your solo act when you're out performing? You've got Paul backing you up. Yeah,
and Ted Williams, and they are both from John Cadley's band, the Lost Boys. Paul is one of the founding members.
Yeah.
I really just started doing that. I like to play with other people. It gives me a little bit of a different experience, and you can develop that comfort zone with a band. And I really love that too. Mm-hmm. So Edgy Folk is fun. We do a lot of originals and covers that people will remember, sort of B-side covers, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
Now, how long have you been with Edgy Folk?
Oh, I'm so bad with numbers. I'll say 6 years. John Peterson is my writing partner in Edgy Folk, and we've been writing for probably, I always have to think, because we started when his son was born, and he's now a senior, so 18 years, I guess. He's ready to go off to college. That's how we gauge things, because numbers don't work as well as faces and people for me. But I do love this area. I always say that I will never retire and go south. I'm going to move north. Right now I live in the Auburn area, so I hope to be Deanna's neighbor one day. Where are you? That would be fun.
Okay, so you're out playing at all over those three places in central New York, and you're out, and so do you? I always like to try to get our listeners into the minds of our guests. So do you meet regularly to practice and to write with Edgy Folk and and on your own, and how does that work?
Yeah, we used to meet every Thursday, and really nothing would stop us. And then I guess we just became a little more comfortable, and John has other projects, I have other projects. So we tend to practice monthly. But I usually do some kind of music once a week with a group of people in my own kitchen. So kitchen music is the best.
It really is. To have a couple of comfy chairs and some comfy folks to hang out with.
great food like you folks have tonight.
Yeah, right? If we can use the word comfy more in this interview, I would appreciate that.
Comfy,
Thanks.
comfy.
We can have comfy food. That would be all right. So I was saying earlier that we were going to talk about dog, because that was one of the things that I brought up earlier too, that I was saying, you know, when Donna's here, I want to make sure that I'm talking about dog. And I said, do you remember that song about the dog? And then Gina and I were going back and forth, and I was like, there was something about there was this dog, and I think there was like an adoption, and like I don't know, I think I created this whole like grand story.
Right.
So more for my sake than anybody else's. Do you mind diving into that story a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know if I told it here. I don't know. Maybe I told a fictional story. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Well, I always had this dog song sort of half baked in my songbook. And my dad, who lived in Oswego, he got cancer, and we took him to my house, and he died at my house. And it's not really a sad story, it's a happy story, because I so wanted him to come to me and speak to me in one of my dreams, and it never happened. And it took forever to feel peaceful about him leaving. And one night I did have a dream, and my father had a great sense of humor. He appeared in the dream, and he didn't say a word to me, but my dog, who passed shortly after my dad, he spoke to me. So, and he thought that was so funny in the dream. So it helped me to finish my dog song. So I always feel like my dad helped me get this song out. So
yeah, that's cool. That's way different than I remember.
So yeah, Deanna, that kind of triggered that story. Your story triggered my story. So thanks.
Yeah,
it's really just I don't know. I think I like to think about Austin. Rick Graveldine is a songwriter. I think his son is in Frostbite Blue. Can I name drop here? Is that okay?
Yeah, please. They're from Central New York.
But he gave me a great compliment. He said, that dog song you wrote, it's a 12-year-old could have written it. It's brilliant. So, so I really liked that. I like that. Yeah, your inner child.
That's right.
You can't lose it.
Yeah, please don't. Please don't. Do you feel like that's a piece that you try to draw off of while you're, if you sit down and you decide you want to write a song? Because sometimes songs just come, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. I was lying on my back for a long time, the crutches, that whole piece. So it's hard to do things when you're lying on your back and you have to have your foot in the air. So, I mean, you might want to edit that too. But I always waited for songs to come to me, and I always waited to be inspired by something. And then I thought, I am just stuck here. I'm just going to write at 11 o'clock in the morning every day. And I think I wrote 5 or 6 songs in a row. It was amazing. Every day I was putting out another song. So I would encourage anybody to just carve out a little time, get some kind of creative endeavor on your schedule. If you like to knit, if you like to make clip clocks, make sure that you make time to do that, and don't wait until everything's done or your bag of work is all checked off. And so that really worked for me. That changed my mindset about writing. I guess that's how they do it in Nashville. I don't know. 8 to 5.
I guess, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we need to break more legs in Nashville.
Right.
Or other places.
I highly recommend rupturing your Achilles so you can lay around for a few months.
Yeah, right? Get inspiration, right? Music?
It wasn't that bad.
No, I mean, that in itself, I think, is inspiring, because anybody that is in that position and has to be on their back for that long of a time, they're like, I'm done. I have no inspiration left. And you were able to say, no, I just need to pull it out.
Yeah. I was proud of myself that I never turned the TV on once.
Wild.
Yeah, it was good. It was hard sometimes, but
yeah.
I couldn't get to the remote, so.
I mean, I guess that helps.
Oh.
It's still an inspiration, though. So stick with that. Whether you couldn't reach the remote or not. Like, that's.
Turn off the TV. TV, right?
That's right. That's cool. So you have some more songs for us, please?
Yeah,
Yes?
we'll do Dog right now. If you want
all
us to.
right.
It's called Word of Dog.
Word of Dog. I think that while we're waiting for people to set up, we should probably have you tell folks how they can get a hold of you and your music as well.
Okay. Well, my band Edgy Folk is on Reverb Nation, and it's just the way it sounds, Edgy Folk. I'm on Reverb Nation too, just the way I sound, Donna Dennihy, so you can find me there. I'm on Facebook.
Donna Dennihy, everybody.
Ready? Right. 1, 2, 3. Dream. He made me feel so peaceful and serene. Through the word of dog, he made me feel alright. He showed me the way, truth, and light. He said, love one another, be nice, don't bite. Show appreciation for the day each night. Go outside, don't forget how to play. Be faithful, try not to stray. Well, I opened my eyes. What did I see? Statue staring at me. I picked up a tablet next to my bed. I sat on the cold floor and I wrote what dog said. I wrote, love one another, be nice, don't bite. Show appreciation for the day each night. And go outside, don't forget how to play. Be faithful, try not to stray. Say that I'd like to dedicate this to a friend who lives in Oswego, Paul Hegarty, who gave me a John Prine album when I was about 17. I don't think he gave it to me. I think he lent it to me and I never gave it back. So, Paul, if you're listening, I have your album. So, this is a John Prine song. home straight and you come home curly. Sometimes you don't come home at all. So what in the world's come over you? What in heaven's name have you done? You've broken the speed of the sound of loneliness. Just be on the run. Well, I got a heart that burns with a fever, and I got a worried and a jealous mind. How can a love that'll last forever get left so far behind? So what in the world's come over you? What in heaven's name have you done? You've broken the speed of the sound of loneliness. You're out there running just to be on the run. It's a mighty mean and a dreadful sorrow. It's crossed the evil line today. How can you ask about tomorrow? We ain't got one word to say. So what in the world's come over you? What in heaven's name have you done? You've broken the speed of the sound of loneliness. You're out there running just to be on the run. Out there running just to be on the run. You're out there running just to be on the run.
If the same spirit that raised Christ from the dead dwell in you, dwell in you. If the same spirit that raised Christ from the dead dwell in you, dwell in you. I spent every Sunday morning learning how to sing loud, every part in every octave, singing God to come down, singing love and singing power and singing peace to come. Now we raise our spirits from the ground. There's nothing like the sound we sing love is. We are pilgrims traveling down this long dirt road. I can hear my family singing every time the wind blows. Grandpa taught me what to look for just before it rains. He taught me how to recognize all the subtle changes, how to harvest, how to grow, and how the earth just lets you know. Yodelay, yodelay, yodelay. our saints for them to come and bless us soon. So please, Mommy, sing. It's been a hard day. I just wanna hear you say love is. We are pilgrims traveling down this long dirt road. I can hear my family singing every time the wind blows. Love is. We are pilgrims traveling down this long dirt road. I can hear my family singing every time the wind blows.
On the Porch, music director Gina Holsapple. It was the 4th of July, 1990, when Claude Chalifot and Bernard Hammond were both born. They were born on opposite ends of the planet, but had roots and a future, born in Tonkahogen. Claude was born to parents that were natives to Tonkahogen, who had connected with some friends and had found themselves in Indonesia doing some mission work. And it was 8 years that they lived and raised Claude in an Indonesian community doing their work. And it was in 1998 when they decided it was time for them to move back to Tonkahogen. The Indonesian government had been overthrown. There was a lot of unrest, and their 8-year-old had had enough, they thought, so it was time to move back. And that's when Claude met his best friend, Bernie. Bernie was born on the same day, they found out, and this was one of many things that they shared. It was the favorite thing that they shared, really. The second favorite thing that they shared was being what is known as a third culture kid. Bernard was not born in Tonkahogen or to parents from Tonkahogen. He was born to a couple of parents in Cleveland, and those parents were gang members. And although they were involved in a lot of things that were dangerous and corrupt, and it was a life that they chose, they also knew that that was not the kind of life that they wanted for their children. So they put Bernie up for adoption. And so Bernard was adopted by a couple of parents that moved to Tonkahogen just a few years before that from Vietnam. Being raised a white kid to a pair of Vietnamese parents in a town like Tonkahogen just screamed, I don't belong. But that was okay, because nobody does in Tonkahogen. As they grew and they learned the term third culture kid, this was a title that they held deeply and that they grasped very strongly with one another, and they shared. There wasn't anybody else in Tonkahogen that they could really share that title with, even though everybody could argue that they all were in some way, not knowing where they belonged. And so they decided, the two of them, that they were going to have their own two-person club. Nobody else was going to be admitted, but they were going to have their own third culture club, is what they called it. And so they had to have a couple of theme songs, right? And why not songs like, do you really want to hurt me? I mean, because it's culture club, right? And they could be the third culture club, why not? And karma, 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 chameleon. They sang that a lot in the hallways, and kids would get really frustrated. But that was, that was their thing. So they listened to Boy George and the culture club, and they were the third culture club. And they always tried to do things differently because they were different. And so they kind of forced the being different thing every once in a while. And sometimes it worked for them, and sometimes it didn't. One of the things that they did, though, that was different, that worked really well for them, is that they would sneak out. They were always spending the night at each other's house. Even on school nights, their parents were like, that's fine. You've got enough on your plate. You can spend the night. It's a school night. It's fine. But what their parents didn't know is that they were sneaking out. But they weren't doing other things that other kids were doing when they snuck out. They were doing cool things. Like there was a family that fell hard on their times because the dad didn't work in Tonkahogen proper. He worked outside of Tonkahogen in a factory that shut down. And so he was laid off. And the boys knew that this family was hard on their luck. And so they snuck out and carried a whole paper sack full of food and left it inside the garage. They knew how to get inside this family's garage. They won't still to this day tell anybody how they knew how to get into that garage, but they did. They knew how to get into a lot of people's garages, even the ones with the key codes. They have a black book that they keep in a homemade safe with a lot of intricate gears and a wooden key that they share and that they keep hidden in a very secret place. So they made this safe, and they keep stuff in there. And in that safe, they keep a book, and it has everybody's key code. If they have a key code to their garage, everybody either has a key code or they hide a key. Because if you're out of town and somebody needs to take care of something, you never know when something's going to come up and you need your neighbor to go take care of stuff. So everybody has a key hidden, inside that magnetic frog thing that has the lid. It looks like just a lawn ornament, but when you take the magnetic shell off, there's a key. And, sometimes they hide them under rocks, or there was a loose brick in somebody's step and they would dig a little hole inside there and put the key, or they would just call and tell the neighbors the key code. And so neighbors would write the neighbor's key code and put it on the refrigerator. And so when the boys were over for a party or for a funeral, they would look at the refrigerator and write down your key code. So they knew everybody's stuff, and they used it to get in, because that's what they did. They snuck out and they would get into your garage, and they would feed your dog. So it would stay quiet, and they would just hang out. Sometimes they just sat in Old Man Pinker. There's this man that lived down at the end of the street from Bernard's house, and they called him Old Man Pinker. And they would thought it was a riot to go into his garage at 2:00 in the morning with their lantern and play cards. They would just hang out and sit on the garage floor and play cards next to his 1942 tractor that still didn't run, but Old Man Pinker said he was going to fix it someday. And as the boys grew older, they learned how to work on tractors. And one of the things they said they were going to do, they still haven't done, but they said they were going to do, they were going to go into Old Man Pinker's garage and fix his tractor after they played a good hand of cards. And so these boys did that, and they would sneak in and they would leave food, or they would leave a note. If somebody had a bad day and they knew somebody had a bad day, they would break in to leave a note to say have a good day. And then they would lock the door up and go back out. And these notes would end up in the newspaper, and people would talk about them. There was even the valedictorian one year graduated and wrote their valedictorian speech all around how somebody had left them a note because they were having a bad day. A really, really bad day, and thinking of a lot of really bad things. And they didn't do any of those things because they received a note saying everything was going to be fine and they were going to be okay. And so this whole valedictorian speech was written around this random note that somebody left after they broke into their garage. And so this is how Bernard and Claude lived. And when they decided that they were going to do something really big, they needed to find some place to do that. And it happened to be that one of their friends, Jimmy, was having a really rough day. And so the boys went into their stealth mode, and they started asking questions and following Jimmy down the hall and just kind of paying attention, listening to him whisper to friends and just kind of seeing what was going on. And they learned that Jimmy's grandfather, who lived a couple of towns over, was in the ICU, and they were pretty sure he wasn't gonna make it. It was more than just a note and some fruits or some snacks or something. They acquired Jimmy's locker combination. And after school, they hung out, waited till everybody vacated the school and started walking home. And they ran up to the second floor, down into the science wing, into Jimmy's locker. Number 272 in the blue hall. So all the halls are separated into colors, and all the lockers in the blue hall are blue. So they found Jimmy's locker, and they spun the combination, and they opened it. And Jimmy didn't keep a clean locker. And so everything just spills out They didn't realize that you have to open the locker really slow and stick your foot in as you're opening it so that the stuff on the bottom doesn't fall out. There were old Gatorade bottles and a ton of Snickers bar wrappers, wadded up papers, old tests. There was even a brown bag lunch that had gotten soggy and the bottom had fallen out after the banana rotted and he never took care of it. And so everything under it was really soggy and sticky. And so all of this stuff is just piled. It's just in this big pile. And they started laughing and they started calling it the Fraggle Rock locker because of the trash heap. If anybody ever watched Fraggle Rock, they tried to make this joke, but nobody watched Fraggle Rock. And they started making jokes about how the trash heap had spoken, just like the little rats on Fraggle Rock would do after the trash heap would give this big wise speech. And that's when it struck them, when they were laughing and joking about this and just waiting for a janitor or a teacher to come walking down the hall. And they said, we should clean up his locker. And then they said, no, we shouldn't. We should call it the trash heap and every day type something or write something out and these big philosophical statements, and we should tape them to the outside of Jimmy's locker, and it'll be like the trash heap has spoken. It'll be real simple but real meaningful. So they tried it, and they thought that they were doing something really nice for Jimmy by giving him a really philosophically deep and meaningful statement. And there it was on the locker. And it was on fluorescent pink paper so everybody could see it. And it was either going to go really well for Jimmy and he was going to feel better, or it was going to go really poorly because now he had a bright pink sticker note on his blue locker. But what happened was incredible, because it wasn't just Jimmy that was benefiting from these philosophical statements and comments and these really deep thoughts. It was everybody that walked by the locker, because they saw the bright pink note and they would stop and they would read it. And pretty soon everybody would see Jimmy in the hall and they'd pat him on the back. And there was that really cool redhead that everybody wanted to be friends with, but she just kind of hung out by herself, wouldn't go to dances with anybody, and she gave Jimmy a hug and said thank you. And he said, for what? What did I do? And he was all nervous and shaking in the knees, and she just smiled. And she wrote out her name and her phone number, and then that really deep thought that moved her that had been pasted on his locker. And she said, please keep doing that. And he didn't have the heart to tell her it wasn't him. And so as the end of the year came around, the boys decided it was time to go back into Jimmy's locker and maybe clean up their mess. Maybe put a note inside the locker to say, we hope we didn't create a lot of trouble for you. And as they opened the locker, they stuck their, Claude stuck his foot inside the locker to keep anything from coming out. But nothing came out. And the locker was spotless. And their first thought was, he's gone. He's already cleaned out his locker and left. But that wasn't true. He just cleaned it up. And he had taken all those pink notes and had pasted them all over the inside of his locker, all up and down the door, all on the hooks, and in the little cubby on top where you would maybe put a lunch or the more important books that you wanted to access. Everything was gone except for these pink notes. They just wallpapered the inside of the locker. And then in Jimmy's handwriting, right in the middle, in a fluorescent green note so that it stood out, it said, thank you. Now, they're still not sure if Jimmy knew it was them, or if that was just a universal thank you, but they felt it. And as they walked home, they thought, maybe we should be thanking Jimmy, because he gave us the opportunity to do something really good that felt good to everybody. They decided to take the long way home, and they walked by Jimmy's house. As they walked past, Jimmy was leaning on the railing of his front porch, and he could hear them shuffling through the gravel on the side of the road. And he looked up, and they were trying not to make it obvious that they were walking by Jimmy's house on purpose. But Jimmy waved, and somehow Jimmy found out, and he said, this one's for the Third Culture Club. And he smiled and said, this is my home. This is my only home. This is the only sacred ground that I have ever known. Should I stray in the dark night alone, rock me, goddess, in the gentle arms of Eden. Rock me, goddess, in the gentle arms of Eden. Thank you. And thanks for being part of another awesome episode of On the Porch Radio Hour. I want to thank our crowd for being here. Everybody, thank you for being in-house. It's really cool to have people at the farm and part of the show. I want to thank everybody at Concert Window. Thanks for sticking through it, man. That was really cool. I want to thank Donna Dennihy for being here, and I want to thank Deanna Hubbard, and I want to thank Paul Walker for hanging out with Donna and playing and singing along. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being on the website and listening to all of our archived shows. Thanks for your support, no matter how you're giving it, because it keeps us here. And I'm really glad that we're here. So thanks. And until next Thursday or Saturday or whenever you're choosing to listen, peace to your journey. Have a good day.
On the Porch is a production of the Wooden Apple Farmstead, with host Matthew Wood. Our musical director is Gina Holsapple. Our stage manager is Ray Monet. Our sound technician is Gina Holsapple. Contributing writers for this show include Matthew Wood and Gina Holsapple. Special guests include Donna Dennihy and Deanna Hubbard. Find information about past shows, being on the porch, and much more online at ontheporch.weebly.com.